Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the channel. I'm sure you guys are probably wondering, Jaden, what are you doing right now? I'm on Blocksworld, you see. I mentioned it a bit during my Super Mario Odyssey video. I was like, oh, let me talk about the game, and this is the game, you know. It's basically just Minecraft, you know? Like, nothing special about it. Okay, I'm kidding. There's a ton of special things you can do. So the mobile version, the one that I grew up with, was free, and you could play it on your phone and stuff. No crap. But this version, you have to mess around with the coding a bit, and you get this. Just this really cool creative game that utilizes a bunch of different features into its gameplay. And actually talking about the game, specifically the computer version, I've published only one world, and it's nothing really special. It's sort of just showcasing stuff that I had on the mobile version, which I'm gonna talk about everything about, like why the mobile version sort of went out of commission in this whole franchise in general. But I really like this game, and I'm sad that it had to end because it was actually really fun and a part of my childhood for a while. But let's actually just get into the reason that this game isn't as good as it used to be. And the first reason for that is the fact that the developers kind of got a little bit greedy when, making this game. I'm just going to play a random thing and show you how it is. Now, when I mean like the developers got greedy, I don't really mean that, but let me just explain to you what a good example is. Throughout the course of this game's life, the buyable stuff of this game got more and more expensive. Now, that's not a bad thing, and sure, you can play the game without it, but the game actually started to get really difficult to say, but most of the game itself requires you to make things based on what you have, and getting those items to make stuff is actually kind of difficult because some of the blocks or accessories are really, really expensive. And then what I mean by greedy is they really wanted more and more of that money, so over time they made playing the game difficult. Earlier on in the game's life, you could publish worlds and publish models whenever you want, and actually I'll go to that now. There is a model section, or the shop section. Again, not that many people play this because, it's so new. And oh my god, it's actually silent. That's actually pretty cool. Yeah, as you can see, you can just make whatever you want with this game, and there's more stuff on here than the first time I played, which means that there's probably more people. And as you can see, this is me, Jake2. That means that there's only 334 people playing. I'm sure there's more now. And throughout the course of its life, it got more and more difficult because, as I literally just said, the more that this game was out, the harder it was to play in general. A couple of updates later, they made it where you had to literally, if you wanted to do the same daily publishing worlds and publishing models, you needed to pay coins for it. People stopped playing the game because, obviously, as I just said, it got kind of difficult to do the things that you love. I know this sounds all really stupid that, one world per day, that's not so bad. And you know what? You're right. It's not so bad. There could have been worse things. But here's the thing. A couple of updates later, modern day, there was an error that swept the realm of Blocksworld and kind of ruined it for the entire community. This was heartbreaking because it didn't allow you to publish things anymore, and certain accounts got removed altogether, and this made the game sort of difficult to even experience or play. For me, I couldn't really enjoy the game anymore as a whole because of the fact that, it was over. There were no updates coming out. The game was made incredibly difficult because of the fact that I really didn't have enough time to even make worlds. This version of the game gives you unlimited access to everything, and that sort of helps the problems that I had with the original game. But not that many people are playing it, and most of the people that weren't affected are still playing the mobile version, which, as I just said, hasn't gotten that many updates in a while. This is all fine and dandy until you realize that this game was actually perfect until they meddled with it. I mean, looking at this game right now, who wouldn't want to play this? You have animations and unique things that you can add to all your blocksters, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But just look how cool this game is. Look how vibrant it looks and creative it is. Creative. You You can save models, and you can basically make whatever you want. Look, I'm going to make something while I talk about this. But yeah, you can code it and have it say things, and we'll get to that in a little bit. And I made these by using older things from my actual Blocksworld account, which I still have. But yeah, the game ended up becoming sort of a poor thing and a poor talk, and not that many people kept playing it anymore. And for me, a problem that happened, as I just said, was that I couldn't upload any worlds anymore. This pretty much prevented me from playing the game as a whole forever. I don't know if this was a problem with other people, but really I couldn't really just do the things that I enjoyed about the game. And this was sort of sad for me because I grew up with that game, and it was one of the prime ones I played on my free time. I talked about my life, I made people happy, and it was overall just a really fun experience. Computer version doesn't have any of the big names that the other one had. There's all these smaller people that are trying to make a name for themselves. But that's a good thing because it shows the community that there's still growth and people willing to play this game. A sequel to this game would be what it needed. Sure, you have this, but it's sort of difficult to access because of the fact that you definitely need to tamper with the files a bit. And I mean a bit, I mean a lot. I had to download necessary files from another location to actually start up this game, and I couldn't just load it from the start, which was kind of a pain for me because I wanted to play this game straight away, and it took me a couple of hours before I could actually discover what the problem was. A sequel or some kind of way to let people know about the problems in this game would be a great way for the community to know that there is change coming and that there is a way to keep enjoying this game. Now, for some people there might not be a problem and the game is perfect the way it is, but for some people, like me, I can't upload anything and I really can't share any of my major projects anymore, which is a fun thing that I like to do. Now, honestly, I have other games that I can play, such as Minecraft, Roblox, all my Pokemon series, but it's just the magic that was taken out of the real game that it doesn't carry over from this game. Sure, the nostalgia's definitely there, but when you take a minute to look at the bigger picture, it's still different. All the creativity and all the experience you had was just gone. And that's what I think is the biggest thing about this game. All of the reviews kept talking about how there was something wrong with the game entirely and that something needed to be done about it. If the developers really cared about the game to begin with, we wouldn't be having these problems. But as I said earlier, they kind of became greedy and made the game more of an EA game, if you know what I'm trying to say. You had to buy more things if you wanted to have the full experience, and you were sort of limited to what you could do. And it was also sort of difficult to learn how to do the game because it was all there for you. You have to discover everything on your own. And that was one of the main things that I loved about the game. I could make something simple, not completely advanced, and people would still enjoy and play it. But now here, there's really no one here actually playing these games, and it's just you. And that's what I think is a big thing about these games, because the fact that there's not a lot of light shed on this problem, and more people are just playing the game as if there's nothing wrong with it. But there is a problem, and I think it's important for us, for any game as a community, to address the problems but not make such a big deal out of it. Sort of like Pokemon, Sword and Shield, everyone's complaining about... I might make a separate video on this, but basically what I'm trying to say is that people keep complaining about like the textures that they're bad, dwindle down the national decks, and they kind of ruin the game. Personally, for me, that's not a problem. You couldn't even really catch them all unless you have special events for the entire core of the game, such as Arceus, Darkrai, Celebi, Shaman, all this crap. It's difficult to actually catch them all, which is one of the main arguments I feel. Another thing is the animations. Everyone is comparing it to things like Battle Coliseum or whatever that game was on the Wii. The Wii game was supposed to be that way because they had the time to develop that game. Even if it's Game Freak, even if it's Nintendo, even if it's gaming in general, it's not perfect. They had to work on Ultra Sun in the process, Let's Go Pikachu, Pokemon Quest, the updates for Pokemon Go, and probably more things at the same time. They had to divide their work teams because they started development in 2017 and had a bunch of other projects to work on. Even if we say that they finished Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, they still had to make sure that each game works properly and that it actually functioned the way it was supposed to be. This is sort of a difficult thing with games because in modern days, you have to make a bunch of games every year, every couple of years to stay relevant. Why do you think Minecon, we got 2 updates, the B update and then the Nether update was later revealed? Or games like Fortnite with rapid updates every now and then. In the modern era, people do not want to wait for things. That's why the Avengers, the MCU, mainly is what I'm trying to say, has so many movies. Because people don't want to wait to see them. People want their content now and quick. And when it's not the way that they want it, they fuss about it. Because they think as the fans, they have a right to actually control what's going on in the development. They don't. They don't know how hard or difficult it is to actually make things. On YouTube, for example, you know all those fan animations that people make? Those take months to make. And it's super difficult. For example, Starter Squad. I'm sure that's a name that you guys have heard. By Shippage. Their Starter Squad series takes a long time to make because of all the fluid animations that they have to make. Or Godzilla animators on YouTube, such as Methalo Kaiju, Film Core. There are months in between those animations because they take a while. If it takes one person months to make an animation, just think about how a whole team would need in months. They don't have a lot of time, but they can still do more than a simple person. So if you're complaining about the animations in a Pokemon game, you might as well complain about every modern Pokemon game since X and Y, because all of them are exactly the same. Double kick, flamethrower, whatever. They're not supposed to be that advanced. It's supposed to be simple because the game is centered for kids, but they know that all the adults are going to play it, which is why they add all those little nods and innuendos in there. So the older fans that understand that will actually get fun from playing the game. But the game did it completely well, and if you're going to compare it to that Wii game alone, Sword and Shield on its own had near perfect reviews, I should say. 10s, 9s, 8s. That game, I looked it up and had like a 5 out of 10 automatically. If you're going to try and compare a game, compare the games when they're equal, not separate. There was nothing that they were developing at the time. That Wii game, there was no 3D projects. They could work on that all they wanted. The Sprite team had to work on Gen 4 games, but in reality, nothing was holding them back from 3D. Which is, I think, a big important thing. We take these things for granted and sort of control what's happening. Who cares if the animations aren't as good as that one game that existed a couple decades ago? Just like Pokemon Stadium, the game's not supposed to be like a traditional Pokemon game. That's why they put the extra work in. But for an actual Pokemon game, it's supposed to be simple, and that's what people enjoy about the game. It's easy to understand with its great graphics and fun story. It's unique, it's a genre, and it's one that's ever evolving and expanding. Sure, even if it's not perfect, then you don't have to complain about it and try and ruin it just for what it is. It's a game, and it's supposed to be explored and enjoyed by many, millions. If you're going to say that the game is bad, it was one of the highest grossing Switch games, and still is. 16 million copies in 6 weeks, and you're going to say that the game is horrible and shouldn't be played. Sure, the textures are comparable to a PS2 game, but again, so are all modern Pokemon games. That's just what they are. Sure, it might not be as we would have seen it back in the day when we would have enjoyed them, but you don't have to complain about it and make a fuss about it. Besides, there's a valid argument to why those things are there, and really why you shouldn't be bothered by them. And it's more complicated than just they don't care, because they truly care. That's why they're doing the DLC and everything. They want their people to play these games. It's not for money, it's a passion project. About that ran off of Pokemon Sword and Shield, that's just like this. The fans as the people show their support to these games, and it's our job to actually cause it to keep going. It's not our job to try and make the best. That ruins the rest of the games that you'll play in the future because there's nothing else to enjoy. You have to cut back what you don't have to explore what you have with you. And that's truly important when actually designing and playing a game. Sure, it might not have everything that people want, but it's going to be enjoyable for anyone that plays it. And that's what truly makes these games special. And I think that's what the people are missing these days. It's not about what's not there, it's about what is there and the care that was actually put into this. Sure, this might not have been a perfect video, it was a more serious one, but I just think that in the modern era, people need to understand that games are not about making money, they're not about success or fame. It's just about having a fun time and actually enjoying what you have at your disposal. It's truly about what's in there and the heart that you feel. The feelings are everything when it comes to playing a game. Your reactions, your experience, all are there. Making friends and everything else like that is just part of the process. But you have to understand it with millions to truly get what the game is trying to be. So for this game, I propose that you either make a sequel or improve the main game or try and expand it to this game with more people playing. If you were able to make this simpler to actually access, then I think a ton of people would get on this project. But hey, that's just my opinion on gaming and Blocksworld in general. Sure, the game's not perfect, but it's amazing and it should be played and respected, but since the developers don't take the time to try and improve what they're working on, it sort of ruins the flow. So I ask of this: sequel time, revamp on the other game, or try and make this game more accessible to people. This is JakeWazzaTube, signing out. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I have a ton of projects on the way. Stay safe, and wash your hands.